In this video, I'm going to be continuing my healing journey with the ancient plant medicine ayahuasca at the retreat center Nimiakaya in Pucallpa, Peru. In a previous video, I explained season 1 of my journey, which was my first retreat with Nimiakaya. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you the full testimonial of my second retreat a year later. Hi, I'm Lara. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about healing all of the traumas with the help of ancient wisdom, plant medicine, and spirituality. So gather around and let's get into it. In a previous video, I went over my entire first experience at the retreat center Nimiakaya in Pucallpa, Peru. I went through all of my ceremonies from start to finish of how they helped me heal and transform my life in incredible, unbelievable, miraculous ways. In this video, I'm going to be going over my second retreat at Nimiakaya and how it just continued on the journey of healing and how eventually it helped me heal childhood trauma and integrate the lessons to create a beautiful life that I truly believe that I deserve. Now, after my first experience at Nimiakaya, I immediately went home and integrated some of the lessons from the medicine, ayahuasca, and moved to a place where I was truly happy and I had committed deeply to the work of healing and figuring out how to heal all these traumas in my life. I had seen and released so much in my first trip to Nimiakaya, and I had made a promise to come back because I realized at the end of that retreat that fear was a bigger problem for me than I had ever realized. It wasn't just about the negative self-talk for me. It wasn't just about, the hatred of self. It was the root feeling, the root emotion below all of that hurt and anger and pain was fear. And I had to now embark on a second journey to Nimiakaya in order to walk through the fear. There are no words to speak how highly I think about this retreat center. It's ineffable because I love it so much. Even though you have this trepidation of doing the medicine, the feeling of safety is overwhelming, and it's just something I'm so grateful for. So I get to the retreat center for my second season at Nimiakaya, and I have a full-blown, total, unadulterated, freak out panic attack session in my tambo. I completely lost my mind, but I didn't want, at this point, I understood that there was a lot of people there that had never drank the medicine before, so I did not want to affect their journeys in any way, shape, or form. So I kind of just hid in my room and didn't let anyone know what was going on. But I let the facilitators know that I was having such a hard time. They all took time out of their days to try to help me through this. They had known a little bit about my story because Jill preps all of her staff with, backstories of all the clients that are coming so that they know what to expect and how best to help them. I mean, this is a well-oiled machine, folks. If you're not sure about a retreat center to go to, Nimiakaya is bar none one of the best because it's just small, it's intimate. They really are focused on helping you heal from what you go there to heal. They all have learned your story a little bit enough to know how to help you, and they're supportive and they're loving and they're caring and they're real, man. Like, they're real people. There's no spiritual woo-woo as fuck people rolling around like they're better than you. It's not that at all. It's very, very humble people that just really want to be of service, and it's beautiful. So they all helped me through this, but like I said, because of my childhood trauma, the abuse I suffered as a child, the fear that I was put through on a daily basis as a child, this was ingrained in my soul. Like, this was going to be tough for me. And again, my ceremonies have nothing to do with your ceremonies. This is just my experience and a way for you guys to hear about how the medicine works differently for different people. I'm obsessed with hearing about everyone's stories, so I share mine openly so that other people who love hearing about these stories can listen and hopefully share their stories down the line, because I think stories are the way for all of us to bond and heal and realize that we're all the same. We're all on the same team, man. We're all just trying to heal that shit. I personally didn't partake in the first ceremony because I was having such panic attacks. There was just no way. But I sat through them, and then I went to integration the next day because I didn't want to affect the group. So I didn't want to affect their journeys. I knew they were there to heal their shit, and I didn't want to affect them at all. So I just sat through integration and listened. The interesting thing that happened is when I listened to other people's stories, and this is, again, speaks to the power of story, I realized that I wasn't the only person having these hard ceremonies. Up to this point, I was like, oh, you don't understand. my ceremonies are the hardest. Like, I have it the hardest of anyone. And it was kind of this narcissistic thinking that I was somehow special having these really hard ceremonies. And when I actually listened without the dialogue of, oh my God, what am I going to say at integration? Without that dialogue in my head, just with like pure like interest and panic going on, you know, I actually listened to their stories. And what I heard was, man, wow, her ceremony sounds really intense. Wow, she like weighs 80 pounds and she's telling me how hard it is, but she's going in there like a warrior, like a boss, you know, like, wow, what if I tried that, you know? And I listened to story after story of the 10 other people that were there. That for me was more powerful than a ceremony for myself at that moment, because I realized it was not all about me, that everyone had difficulties. Everyone had their version of a hard life. What I considered a hard life and what they considered a hard life were two different things. We had two different experiences. Their subconscious programming was just as difficult as mine. It was just different. And this was an eye-opening experience for me. I decided that I was going to do the ceremony. Didn't know how I was going to do it yet because I was still panicking, like complete panic up until I drank the medicine, honestly. But I decided to go into the ceremony. Jill had gotten there to visit. She's only there from time to time now, so I was lucky enough to be there while she was there. And she sat me down, and she had been there for my first ceremonies, so she understood. And she had also had her own experiences with how hard these ceremonies can be and how you have to walk through. And she told me the same thing Max Ingen had told me at the first retreat, that, you know, I could choose to not drink for sure. I could totally do that. I could totally go home. I could switch my flight, go home, no big deal. Or I could walk through this fear that had been holding me back since I was a child. And I get emotional about it again because it was so paralyzing for me, this fear. And I knew deep down I had to do it. And I didn't want to do it. And this is the power of discipline and the power of commitment to your healing journey, is that I didn't want to do it at all. My ego, myself, my body, nothing wanted to do it, but I knew I would never be free from this fear if I didn't do it, and I wanted to be free from the fear more than I wanted to go home and, you know, be safe surfing in my little apartment. So I go into the ceremony after trying to control my dose all day, telling everyone how much medicine to give me, how much medicine not to give me, controlling everything. Control. All my programs were coming up hardcore. So Jill grabs the cup and comes and sits on my mat. And she says, honey, I'm going to sit here until you drink this. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was going to like fake drink or something. Whatever I was planning on my escape being was gone in that moment. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm just going to sit here and, you know, I'm just going to help you do this. She's like, I want you to take this mantra and say it. And she goes, I want you to say, I trust the universe and I release the fear. And I want you to say that over and over and over. And I was like, I trust the universe and I release the fear. To this day, I use this mantra almost daily. Throughout any choices I make throughout my day, or like, you know, big things, little things, whatever. I trust the universe and I release the fear. She handed me that mantra that night and I took it. And, you know, 5 or 10 minutes goes by and I was like, oh shit, like she's not leaving. Like she's not going anywhere. She's like sitting here. And in that moment, I made the choice and I said, fuck it. And I drank it and the rest is history. I had a beautiful ceremony where, you know, my body was in physical pain all night, like horrid physical pain, but I could literally feel the medicine pulling fear, anxiety, and worry out of my bones. And guys, I haven't told you, but up to this point, after my mother had passed away, I had suffered from hypochondria so bad because she died from strep throat, and I could never correlate that it was her type 2 diabetes. I was like, she died of strep throat, and I couldn't get that out of my mind. I worried so much. I wouldn't get on a plane. My kids would get the sniffle, and I would completely break down. I didn't leave my house. Like I was paralyzed with fear that something would happen to my children, and they would die from strep throat, or they would die from the flu, or whatever. And I could feel all of that worry and all of that, you know, anxiety and fear being pulled out of my bones. It was pulling it out of my muscles and my bones. And all I could say was, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for pulling this out. Like, I was in so much fucking pain, but I didn't care, because at this point I knew the medicine was working for me and with me and not against me. And I can't say enough about Nimiakaya, because I couldn't have done this without them. And my life has changed in such incredible, I am so not the same person I was when I walked through their gate. And I am so not the same person I was when Jill sat on my mat and helped me get through this fear that I was in, you know? And so I ended up having that beautiful ceremony and getting through it. I think at one point in that ceremony, I had Jill sitting on one side and Matt sitting on the other side. And again, going back to my other ceremony where I was reborn, in this ceremony, I got to sit there and I looked over at one and looked at the other, and I saw how much they cared for me and how much they wanted to help me heal. And I was like, oh my God, this is what it's like to have a mother and a father who love each other and who love me unconditionally, because I could feel their unconditional love. Like, they loved me so much and they wanted to help me through this. They saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And yeah, this is why Nimiakaya is the shit, like, for real. So that ceremony was gorgeous, transformative, amazing. And I go into my final ceremony at Nimiakaya during that time. And again, I had the trepidation, I had the fear, but this time I was like, screw it. And I just drank. And this is where I saw the intelligence of the medicine. Like, up to this point, I spoke of the intelligence. I knew it was intelligent. It was definitely hitting me in spots I didn't know were there. It was hitting me in spots that I knew were there. So I saw the intelligence, but I didn't see the intelligence. Like, I didn't see it like I did this night. This night, it basically put me through the rebirth process again. The exact same ceremony. I eventually ended up in the back room in the exact same spot I had been in that really, really difficult ceremony from season 1. I ended up in the exact spots, laying in the exact position with the exact same people around me. And this time Ayahuasca spoke to me and she said, you know, we're going to do it again. And I was like, no, please don't make me do it again. I don't want to go crazy again. I can't do it again. She goes, stop. What happened last time? And I said, well, I lost my mind. I thought I was going to go to the hospital. I was, you know, in the medicine for like 12 hours. I was terrified. I thought I was going to die. She was like, but what happened when it was over? I was like, well, I felt gratitude like I had never felt. I felt love like I had never felt. I healed so much of my, you know, subconscious. I was able to like move to Santa Cruz. I was able to be a better mother. I was able to stop talking to myself like I was a piece of shit. And she was like, so what bad things happened? And I go, well, I guess nothing. She goes, so was it worth it? And I said, yeah, it was totally worth it. She goes, okay, so we're gonna do it again. Are you ready? And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, you're right. Nothing bad happened, like nothing bad, only beautiful things came of it. Yeah, it was hard for a few hours, but then I came back to life. Everything was fine and everything got better, honestly. So yeah, okay. And I put on my war paint, and like was like, okay. And I laid back and I was like, okay, I'm ready, let's do this. I'm ready to lose my mind. And it started and she goes, sit up. And because I had surrendered, and this is the power of surrender with the medicine, I had fully surrendered and was like, just take me, do what you will, because it's worth it. And she goes, sit up. And so I sat up. She goes, straighter. You need your spine straight. And so I sat up as straight as I could. I put my hands up and boom, full Kundalini from the base of my spine all the way up out my skull. It felt like I was being electrocuted with lightning, but not in a bad way, like in a good way. And I was just like, oh my God, like all this love, all this everything, so much energy and power and beauty and just lightning up my spine. And she said, this is going to allow you to find your purpose eventually. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're ready now. And I had a full-blown Kundalini awakening. I can't really describe in words what it was, but once it was done, I just laid there like shaking. But I was immediately coming out of the medicine. She had, put me in the same exact scenario I had been in before, but allowed me to make a different decision. She showed me how our perspective of things is not what they actually are. We make up these stories about them. I had made up a story that it was this horror show. And the actual truth of it was that I healed in incredible ways. And the intelligence of this medicine like baffled me at this moment. I was like, how did that happen? How did I end up in the exact same position and have the exact same thing happen with a different outcome? And it was just incredible. Like the intelligence of the medicine in that moment was mind-blowing to me on a massive scale. I proceeded to lay there and just buzz, but be in awe of the intelligence of the medicine and be so proud of myself. Like feel this like pride in myself, which I never felt, because I was like, I learned and I changed my mind. And guys, like on this healing journey, it's okay to say I was wrong back then and now I'm learning something new and changing it. There's so much power in admitting you were wrong. And the way that I had labeled that entire ceremony from season 1 was out of a fear-based perspective. And when I actually discussed it with ayahuasca at length in the exact same spot, going through the exact same scenario with the exact same noodles in my brain, like unable to think straight, looking around and not recognizing where I was, anything. The exact same ceremony happened, but I chose a different outcome. I mean, it was amazing. I couldn't stop like laughing because it was like, oh my God, what I thought reality was is like laughable now. Like I was laughing at my old self for not trusting in the power of this medicine and its ability to heal. And so I walked through my fear that season. I didn't completely heal my fear. It would take me a few more ceremonies, another trip to Nimiakaya, a couple illnesses, a trip to Iboga, but the first step had been taken. I honestly am not sure that ever would have happened had I chosen a different retreat center. Nimiakaya is the best of the best. It is, I always use the word pure because it is pure. There is no ego involved in the creation of Nimiakaya. And that's the other interesting thing is you don't get a lot of clients coming there that are not there to really heal. And by day 2, you're having deeper discussions with total strangers than you've had with, most of the time your family or your partner. So it's really beautiful, the clientele they attract because they are so pure. So that's the gist of season 2. I walked through fear, and upon going home from this retreat, I again went back to taking 40 steps forward, but now I was down to taking only 20 steps back each time. So you still have the back and forth. You still have to go home and do the actual work of integrating the lessons, of changing the behaviors, and of doing something different. But now I understood what doing something different meant. Because just these words coming out of people's mouths telling me what to do, they didn't speak to me. I didn't understand until I saw it with my own eyes. Nimiakaya for sure changed my life, and I hope that you will trust them with changing yours. I'm actually going to volunteer there for the January and February retreat of 2024, and if you're feeling the calling, please don't hesitate to join us. Namaste, bitches.